Well, good Saturday afternoon, everyone. It is Saturday afternoon here, a little bit before 5 o'clock Central Time. Wanted to get on and talk about Tropical Storm 10 that has just formed right between the Yucatan Peninsula and the coast of Cuba, here, kind of in the merger between the Caribbean Sea and then the southern Gulf of Mexico. So, this is certainly going to get a lot of attention. Significant threat to the Gulf Coast, especially Florida, here over the coming days. So, I do want to take a look at what the storm looks like now, also what the National Hurricane Center is showing for the cone of uncertainty, some of that kind of forecasted intensity here moving forward, as well as exactly where and what parts of Florida may be at risk here over the coming days. So, this is our visible satellite imagery here. As we can see here, we've got the Yucatan Peninsula kind of right here. We've got Western Cuba over here. Here's Florida and the Keys over here. Now, what you can see pretty easily is you can see Tropical Storm 10, or sorry, Tropical Depression 10 spinning kind of right here. We've got these bands kind of moving here off to the west. You've got these coming kind of around it here along the Yucatan, kind of moving to the south. So you can see that spin. The center is right about here, kind of just off the Yucatan Peninsula. It's going to move around. It may even do a little bit of a loop-de-loop here, kind of over the maybe the next 24 hours or so, before it generally starts to move off to the north northeast here over the next couple days. So certainly we can see that spin here. It's relatively just now starting to organize, so not a significant threat. There's not an eye. It's going to have some pretty blustery conditions. Tropical storm warnings are up for the Yucatan and for Cuba now, but certainly long term, it looks like the eastern Gulf of Mexico, anywhere from Florida to maybe Mobile. If we had a western trend with some of the model graphics, that's possible. But I think, again, Western Florida and probably the Florida Panhandle is going to be the main threat with time. When we look at a couple of the issues that we're going to be dealing with, one of those being just how warm these water temperatures are. And we can actually see that this is the center. Kind of, let's see, let me change the color. This is the center right here. And so it's actually formed where there's a little bit just marginally cooler waters kind of right here up against the Yucatan. But obviously, right now, the forecasted cone is that it's going to move somewhere off in this general direction. So, kind of right up here. And we can see that these water temperatures, especially here around Florida, get extremely, extremely warm, very near record temperatures. So that's going to be almost kind of some jet fuel that we're going to see for this new tropical storm and then eventually a hurricane that's going to form. And so, significant threat here. We could see rapid intensification possible. Now, when we do look at the current hurricane center 4 p.m. Central Time advisory, when it was officially announced that it was a tropical depression. Right now, they are projecting that by Tuesday afternoon, it will be a hurricane here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, a lot of what's hard right now is when a storm is just forming, models tend to struggle a little bit with understanding exactly the intensity. There's a little bit more kind of understanding of what the general direction of a storm will be early in its life cycle. But oftentimes, those intensity metrics really go all over the place. And oftentimes, they'll underdo just how strong of a storm this will be. So, again, the National Hurricane Center, as of this most recent first advisory, does have it at least reaching the category 1 hurricane strength here over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and then moving up somewhere between the western Florida Panhandle and possibly even the Tampa Bay area. Tampa Bay would be kind of right here. We've got obviously the Florida Panhandle, Destin, Panama City, those areas kind of right here. So somewhere between there is the current projected track as we move forward. When we look at one of the weather models, this is the European model. And so if I back this off a little bit, you can see this is Hurricane Franklin that's currently out in the Atlantic. It's going to mainly move, possibly going to interact with Bermuda on the edges, but again, probably just going to be a fish storm in the Atlantic. But you can see that new tropical depression that has formed here. And this is what the European model is showing, that over the coming days, as we move forward, you start to see that color get to a little bit of an orangish red color, and those isobars get a little bit tighter. So that signifies a strengthening tropical cyclone here, and generally moving kind of off to the north northeast here towards Florida. And as we move forward in time, we see it continue to strengthen all the way to basically this would be landfall here. If we look at the projected time, this says 18Z on Wednesday. So that would be about 1 o'clock Central Time on Wednesday. So somewhere around midday, maybe that lunch hour on Wednesday. If we base it off the European model here, that would be landfall kind of here in the concave area of Florida. Um, Obviously, this area is pretty prone to storm surge, so that could be a significant threat as we get a little bit more data and we get closer. But it does look like landfall here, maybe sometime Wednesday morning into maybe the middle part of Wednesday and impacting this area of the southeast. And then as we move forward in time, it's also possible that we'll see some impacts across Georgia and the Carolinas as well, whether that be flooding or possibly even some storm surge if it can stay strong enough to maybe pull some of that water into the coastal areas. So that is something that we'll have to be watching. But again, certainly a significant impact here. Exactly how strong will it be? That's really hard to tell at this point. I think we'll have more clarity in the next probably 24 to 36 hours. But again, does look like it's very likely to be a hurricane here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and certainly could be a significant threat with storm surge winds, all of the typical threats that you see with a landfalling hurricane, and that does look very likely. This will be the I storm. Um, and so it's interesting that this would be the third consecutive year that the I storm has been a major landfalling issue for the United States. 2 years ago, we had Hurricane Ida that hit Louisiana, had significant impacts, a lot of damage and destruction. Last year, we had a Hurricane Ian that hit Western Florida. That was certainly a significant strong. Both of those were Category 4 hurricanes. And then this ice storm is probably going to be Hurricane Idalia. So that's the ice storm this year. And again, looks like a U.S. impact. Again, Florida. Right now, it doesn't look like it will be as strong, the Category 4 type of hurricanes that we saw. So that might be a little bit of a saving grace, but even these weaker hurricanes can have significant impacts. So if you live here across Western Florida or you're visiting, certainly now is the time to make your plans and precautions, know what you would do, get supplies, whatever that might look like. Definitely want to take this serious. And then here over the coming couple days, we'll get some more clarity on exactly what this is. The last two ice storms, I have intercepted and chased those, and I think very likely I'm going to have to make a journey over to Florida for this one as well. So haven't made an exact decision yet, but definitely looks like things are ramping up here as we move forward. And again, we do have Tropical Depression 10 that's formed. That will be Idalia here over the coming hours, very likely, and then moving north towards Florida. So I hope this update was helpful. I'll certainly do another one or two of these in the coming days here as we get a little bit more of this intensifying tropical cyclone. But hope everybody has a good rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you back here for the next video.